Welcome here to the Iziko South African Museum Archaeology store. This is where we keep a great deal of the physical evidence of humanity's past. For most of human history, we have only stone tools, bones, ochre, rock paintings and such like to tell us about how people lived. And that's what most people associate archaeology with, these stone tools and things that you see here before you. But we don't think about the recent past as much. In South Africa, our heritage legislation states more or less that things that are over 60 years old can qualify to be a heritage resource, as a kind of artifact. And we as archaeologists, we study artifacts. They tell us different things, how people lived, what the past climates were, what people thought and believed. But sometimes we don't ask the question about when does the past begin. So, for example, everything that I've just told you is in the past. So maybe not in the past that most people consider to be archaeology, but very often you have to look at where the past intersects with the present. And so one of the ways that people relate to, particularly in South Africa, is through beer. And we have some beer bottles in the collection. These are older beer bottles. So this is a beer bottle from the 1980s, and this is a beer bottle from the mid-1990s. And you can see a certain evolution in form, and they look a bit different to what they look like today, though you'll still recognize them as beer bottles through their brown shape. And their markings, this one has SAB on it, for example, as does this one, but written in a different way. And this is what the field of contemporary archaeology studies. It studies beer bottles, it studies graffiti, it studies credit cards, it studies Barbie dolls, it studies plastic, for example, which has been around a long time and is a very important part of our life. We often find these in rubbish dumps or middens. Middens from the ancient past and rubbish dumps from today. They grow according to the same kinds of principles, and you can often find out interesting things in them. For example, there's an American archaeologist, Bill Rathje, excavates modern rubbish dumps, and he's found things like hot dogs from the 1930s that are still perfectly preserved, because these are huge rubbish dumps where no oxygen goes in. And strangely enough, he finds that most of these rubbish dumps have 60% of them is made up of paper, and the paper does not biodegrade because it's in these huge stacks that again are without oxygen, so they can't biodegrade. So what archaeology tells us, what the study of the past tells us, is it can give us insights into the future. For example, beer is nothing new. The human species seems to be an addictive species. We seem always to have some kind of addiction, whether it's plant-based hallucinogens or beer. Our first evidence of beer probably from Mesopotamia 6,000–7,000 years ago. Very different kind of beer, I suppose. But those are the kinds of things we also study